Our story kicks off with Isaac van Gogh, a 10-year-old prodigy. He is drowning in gifts from the staff for becoming the Academy's youngest recruit ever. Everyone calls him a genius, and for good reason. His achievements are honestly unheard of. Massive celebrations rock the entire estate, and his nanny even bakes all his favorite treats. Even Hans, a loyal servant, brings gifts to thank him for saving his sick son. His younger brother Jonas is there too. Playing a song on the lute, it is perfect until Isaac wakes up screaming in absolute terror. Surprisingly, that was just a memory, and we are looking at a much older Isaac now. His room looks like a total slum, not a noble estate. Just then, his aide, Lucas, walks in and sees Isaac panting. He knows his master had another nightmare. Isaac admits it. Confessing he was dreaming of the past, Lucas asks exactly how far back he went. 20 years ago, Isaac says. Lucas tells him to drop it and eat some fresh cheese. Lucas lets him know that once he's finished, they are catching up on the sword training they skipped yesterday. Let us see what happened. Flashback to 10-year-old Isaac, just 1 month before he was supposed to leave for the academy. Right after the big party, he caught a strange flu that dragged on for 3 painful months. With no recovery in sight, his father, Count Gogh, finally gets desperate. He calls a magic tower scholar who delivers some heavy news. Isaac has a special constitution. Basically, everyone has a mana vessel, and mana usually flows at a speed it can actually handle. But Isaac's mana circulation, it is completely abnormal. It moves way too fast and violent. At this rate, his vessels are going to shatter. Suddenly, his internal mana bursts out like a dam breaking and hits the mana outside. The resulting explosion was massive, leaving people dead, and many others seriously injured. His power would settle, then boom, it would explode again without a single warning. This left everyone in the mansion living in absolute terror. After an explosion literally tore off Jonas's right arm, Isaac hit his breaking point. He begged his father to lock him away forever so he'd never hurt anyone again. It turns out he was only 15 when he chose exile, and he hasn't left since. Back in the present, he notices Lucas coughing, and not just a little. He is coughing up straight blood. Isaac realizes the truth immediately. Lucas has mana poisoning from staying by his side for decades. Isaac rushes over to check on him, begging him to take a month off, but Lucas isn't having it. He asks who would even take care of Isaac if he left for a break. Plus, he cracks a joke, reminding Isaac that he literally has 0 friends. Isaac jokes right back, threatening to fire him for the insult, but Lucas says he is fine, he hasn't been hurt once. Lucas promises Isaac he will stay. All right, let's see if he can find another like him, as Isaac warns Lucas that any slip-up could mean his death. Isaac sends Lucas away. Suggesting he go meditate, Lucas bows out humbly, saying it was a true honor to serve by Isaac's side all this time. Later on, Isaac is hit by those familiar, painful flashbacks. In his mind, he sees it again. Lucas's broken, bloodied body lying there after a catastrophic mana explosion. He snaps back to reality in his bed. That is when the crushing weight hits him. Lucas is really gone. Turns out, after he coughed up blood and walked out, he didn't return for an entire year. Isaac only learned the truth later when his father delivered the news of his passing. On that day, another mana explosion forced him to seal his door shut for good. Isaac drowns in guilt. He tells himself he should have stayed distant and never let anyone get this close. He's convinced everyone would still be safe if he'd just been cold and heartless from the very start. So he chooses that path. Years pass, and even after refusing to eat, Isaac realizes he's somehow still holding on. The daily bread, dropped at his door, is covered in mold, but when he finally decides to eat, he just brushes it off and bites down. He looks ancient now, a weathered old soul, even though he's technically only a middle-aged man in years. He poured every ounce of his being into studying magic to break the curse destroying him. After years of constant reading, the books have nothing left to teach him. He has mastered it all. Now, he must rely on pure, raw intuition. Several years pass, and Isaac finally finds a lead on his fated problem. By now, he's 71, a life entirely consumed by research, hidden away from the world. Much later, he hears his brother's voice outside the door. Shocked, Isaac keeps his tone ice cold, demanding to know why he's there. Jonas asks to come inside, but Isaac shuts him down. He tells Jonas to speak through the wood. The two brothers sit on opposite sides, backs against the door, talking at last. Isaac asks how life has been. Jonas just sighs, saying it's a very long story to tell. Jonas asks if he realizes that today is the anniversary of their father's tragic passing. When Isaac asks how their father died, Jonas tells him it's another long, complicated tale. He asks if Isaac wants to hear it, and Isaac tells him to talk. Jonas begins the story with the events from 30 years ago. A brutal civil war had erupted between the first and second princes, both fighting to seize control of the throne. Hours later, Jonas finally finishes. You and I see Isaac admit his brother is a master storyteller who made time fly. Jonas teases him back, saying he should have been a poet, though he jokes it would be tough since he only has one working hand left. Hearing those words, Isaac softly apologizes for what happened back then. Jonas admits that the entire family used to hate him. But they also missed him desperately. They loved him to death. Then, Jonas's voice drops. He says it's a shame he won't get to see his brother's face one last time. Isaac is confused, but then Jonas mentions that during the chaos of the war, a gate opened. Monsters from another dimension poured through, leaving nothing but absolute horror behind. Isaac bolts upright in shock, panicked, asking Jonas if he's actually okay right now. Jonas's voice begins to stumble, filled with regret that he didn't come much sooner. Right then, Isaac spots blood pooling under the door. He bursts inside, only to find a sword buried in his brother's stomach. Jonas collapses to the floor. Isaac can only watch, frozen in pure horror as his brother's life fades away. It seemed impossible. How could Jonas keep talking for so long while death was literally knocking at the door? He hoists the body onto his shoulder and begins the long, heavy climb up those dark basement stairs. Tears stream down his face. Jonas is so light, a heartbreaking reminder of just how much he'd suffered and starved. After all these grueling years, Isaac finally returns to the surface, but the world he once knew, it's nothing but total destruction. The mansion lies in ruins, with the rotting corpse of a monster sprawled across the main hall. Stepping outside, Isaac realizes winter has arrived. The air is freezing, and snow has already started to fall. With the ground frozen solid, burying his brother right now is a task he just can't manage. He makes a silent promise to wait for spring. Only then can he use the family cemetery. Isaac knows his own end is near, too. Once spring finally arrives, he keeps his word and buries his brother. As he stands solemnly over his brother's fresh grave, he lifts a hand and for the first time conjures a flickering fireball. A faint smile touches his lips. After all this time, he's finally managed to pull it off. Years of agonizing research into his special constitution have paid off. He's finally broken through his limits. Clutched in his left hand is a shattered rune stone, seeing that he could overcome his cursed body. Isaac realizes that his work is done. He can finally die too. He wonders if forgiveness is even possible for all the pain he's caused throughout his life. A wave of regret hits him. If only he'd started his research sooner, maybe things could have been different. With that, Isaac falls to the earth, and his life finally fades away. But then, a familiar voice calls out his name. He recognizes it instantly. It is Hans. Isaac can't believe it. Hans died years ago, but when he opens his eyes, he's in his younger body. Hans is standing by the window, throwing it open. Isaac is pale and covered in a cold sweat. Isaac bolts upright, wondering if this is a dream or if his life is just flashing before his eyes at the moment of death. Hans looks out the window at a young Jonas, who is busy driving the poor maids absolutely crazy. A genuine smile forms on his face. This isn't a dream. He has actually returned to the past. He's now standing at the start of a new life, a chance to finally break free from his past shackles. Looking out the window, Isaac finds himself pulled back into a dark memory. He remembers overhearing the maids grumbling about his condition and all the constant trouble it caused them. They hated cleaning up his messes, but more than that, they lived in fear of his next mana explosion. Hans hears their whispers, just as he's about to storm in and give them a piece of his mind. Isaac holds him back. He tells Hans that, honestly, everything they're saying is true. In fact, Isaac even tells Hans that he should stop coming to visit him altogether. Looking at the bandage on Hans's head, Isaac reminds him that he only got hurt because he stayed close. Hans drops to one knee, looking Isaac in the eyes to offer him some comfort. He tells Isaac that he's looking at everything the wrong way. He promises that he still cares deeply. This is just a rough patch, and once it's over, all of this pain will just be a distant memory. Hans was so full of hope then, but that loyalty is exactly what killed him during a mana explosion. With a second chance finally in his hands, Isaac wonders what he's supposed to do next. Isaac makes his move. With a cold gaze, he orders Hans to get out. Hans laughs it off at first, but Isaac's dead serious expression shows he is not playing around anymore. Seeing no choice, Hans finally leaves. It is a painful decision for Isaac. But he knows keeping Hans close is a death sentence for the old man. As Hans walks out, he stops to tell Isaac not to carry the whole world alone. He reminds him that it is okay to lean on others sometimes. Left alone, Isaac realizes those words weren't in his memories. He delivers a sharp slap to his own face to prove this isn't a dream. The sting is sharp and real, confirming that he has truly returned to the past. He still wonders how he actually died, but he brushes it off. Dream or reality, it doesn't really matter now. His only mission is to stop the mana explosion that ruined his life before. In the past, another man shared his curse, a legendary figure known as Zeke von Goth. He was a titan who reached the 10th class realm, a level no other human had ever achieved. This legend was Isaac's own great-great-grandfather. Isaac only found out about him because of the secret ancestral records his father handed over while he was locked away in that dark cell. After years of obsessive research, he found the cure for his special body, a method involving a very specific rune stone. Using his past knowledge, Isaac carves the complex patterns onto a mana stone to create his lifeline. He picks up the finished stone and feels the incredible benefit of being young. No more trembling hands, his grip is firm, steady, and full of life. The goal: prevent the violent side effect of his power, the dreaded mana explosion. Usually, a mage's mana vessel must be strong enough to hold the energy inside. However, Isaac's mana is so wild and fast that it basically shreds any vessel from the inside. For anyone else, that is instant death. The moment it breaks, it is over. Somehow, though, Isaac's body is different. His vessel just keeps repairing itself over and over. That is why he could survive 10 or 20 explosions, while anyone else would be long gone. The carved rune stone intentionally damages his mana pathways, applying a constant impact to the wounded areas, which forces a brand new pathway to open. This allows the violent, rushing mana to finally find a way out. However, it is a massive gamble. He only succeeded once, right before his previous death. That tiny flame he sparked was the only proof of his success. Now, he is wondering if he can do it again. Isaac tries to conjure a simple fireball, just like he did back then. But instead, a massive roar of fire erupts, nearly scaring the life out of him. He is stunned by the pure power surging through his veins. He looks down at the rune stone, and it remains intact. That is when it hits him. He has successfully opened 3 separate pathways. Each one has its own property, meaning he can now cast 3 different spells at the same time. It is an incredible success, but he forces himself to stay calm. This was just the first step. His real mission is stopping those explosions, and for a power this massive, he realizes that even 3 pathways won't be enough. He realizes that he must ramp up his magic. Burning through spells more often clears his pathways. This will eventually stabilize his mana vessel, taking off the pressure. But until he succeeds, he is keeping everyone away. Absolutely no exceptions allowed. A bit later, Isaac is deep in his books when Hans suddenly appears with a cheerful smile, carrying a tray of his favorite food. But Isaac cold shoulders him, reminding the servant that he explicitly told everyone to stay away. Hans doesn't budge, pointing out that our protagonist hasn't eaten a single bite lately. He just needs to try one piece. Isaac can't believe this guy isn't listening, especially when he's making that annoying, puppy dog cute face. He asks the boy's age, and Hans reveals that he is only 12 years old. Looking at the kid so young, Isaac realizes that Hans is at the age where he should just be a kid. Isaac takes a bite and recognizes the flavor immediately. This bread was definitely made by his nanny. It is absolutely delicious, and he realizes how much he really missed this taste. He asks where his nanny has been today, and Hans explains that her young son, Hinder, has pneumonia. Hearing this news, Isaac puts the bread down. He remarks on how rare it is for a noble family to let servants go home to care for family. He pauses, then asks if Hinder is the only child. Suffering from the illness, Hans admits that every kid in the village is sick. Suddenly, the memories hit Isaac like a ton of bricks. This is the tragedy you and I might remember, the Black Goose Village incident. In the original timeline, his nanny lost her son there. She was haunted by that crushing grief until her very last breath. To make it worse, she eventually died in one of Isaac's mana explosions. Recalling the tragedy, Isaac knows he cannot let that woman suffer through this nightmare again. A crucial detail clicks. He demands to know what kind of monsters the village hunters recently took down. Once Hans answers him, Isaac packs his bags and disappears toward the village. Hans mentioned he didn't see the monster up close though. But apparently, researchers from the magic tower already swooped in to buy the carcass. From the small glimpse he got, it was a massive spider covered in strange, silver-colored fur. Isaac knows exactly what that is. It was a winter spider. Individually, these spiders aren't that dangerous. However, their breeding rate is insane, causing them to swarm in massive numbers. The real danger, these creatures are packed with incredibly dense mana. Anyone exposed to them for too long suffers from mana poisoning. It is a slow, agonizing toxin that eventually suffocates the victim. Isaac realizes the village children aren't sick with pneumonia. They're being slowly poisoned by that mana. He rushes into the forest to find specific herbs, since he is an expert on this condition. But in this current era, mana poisoning is unknown, which is why everyone misdiagnosed it. Having gathered his ingredients, Isaac's confident he has gathered enough herbs to at least soothe the children's symptoms. But that's just a temporary fix, to stop a relapse for good. Those winter spiders need to be wiped out. Isaac knows his parents could have helped. But his father is currently stationed at the border fortress and his mother is traveling the continent, searching for a cure for his unique constitution. He can't wait for them. If he does, Hinder will be dead by then. Soon after, the nanny is watching her son when she hears a knock on her door. She opens it and surprise, she finds the young master Isaac standing there. He is so exhausted from the travel and gathering herbs that he collapses into her arms. The nanny asks if something happened at the estate for him to leave so late. Isaac explains he was only worried since she hasn't come to work for days and came to check in. She hesitates to let him in because Hinder has pneumonia and she's afraid he might catch it. To convince her, Isaac ties a piece of cloth over his nose. Even then, she's still reluctant. He just hands over the bag of herbs and marches straight inside. He tells her to crush the herbs, mash them, brew them twice in a pot, let them cool, and then feed them to Hinder. Isaac heads to where Hinder is resting, seeing those bluish spots on his face. He confirms the boy is suffering from mana poisoning. Isaac calls Hinder's name, and he gives a weak answer. The poor kid's first thought is begging Isaac not to fire his mom for missing work because of him. Isaac pats Hinder's forehead, promising he won't fire his mom. After all, she's the only one who sneaks him wheat bread, so he should just focus on getting better. Later, Isaac has a hunter lead him to an abandoned mine. Arriving at the cave, Isaac asks the man if he is sure this is the limestone cave he needs. The hunter assures him that it is. Isaac pays the man his fare and says he'll handle everything else from here. As he leaves, the old man warns Isaac to be careful. People have gone missing around this cave before. Winter spiders love limestone caves, and since this is the only one in the area, Isaac is certain the monsters are currently nesting right here. But before heading inside, he realizes it's better to prepare well. He can manifest 3 spells simultaneously now, which basically puts him on par with a second-class mage. However, he can't overexert himself. One slip and his mana vessel might just shatter. Plus, he can't spam magic blindly without knowing how many spiders are in there. Isaac looks around and finds exactly what he needs, the frost belladonna. The berries are usually diluted and used as an anesthetic, but for winter spiders, they're a straight-up lethal poison. Isaac finds it pretty ironic. These monsters live right next to their own deadly weakness. After gathering plenty of belladonna, you and I can see Isaac is regretting his life choices. He really should have brought gloves. His hands are already swelling up, showing just how deadly this poison actually is. He already prepped plenty of rune stones back at the estate, so he figures it is finally time to get moving. Into the cave. A ledge drops straight down into a dark center. It is a long way down. He scans the area for a path down, and luckily for him, finds a ladder that leads straight to the bottom. Isaac grabs hold and starts the long descent. By the time his feet hit the ground, he is totally wiped. Looking at the surroundings, he knows he has found the right place. Skeletons litter the floor, a grim mix of both monsters and fallen humans. Isaac wonders if these human bones belong to the missing people the hunter mentioned. Sudden rustling echoes around him, and he immediately creates a ring of fireballs to surround himself for protection. In the flickering light, he spots the spiders staring at him from the shadows. He isn't worried, though. He knows these 8-legged freaks absolutely hate fire, so they will keep their distance. But he needs to prep before they decide to swarm. Isaac ties a cloth over his face before he makes his move. He is ready. He ignites the belladonna, and thick, toxic smoke begins to fill every corner of the cave. The spiders freak out as the smoke hits them. Seeing their irritation, Isaac knows his plan is working perfectly. Stick with me, it is finally time for him to begin the hunt. Long ago, Isaac watched from his window as a citizen confronted his father about the terrible things happening in their territory. The man blamed him. As the Lord, he should have stepped in to stop this mess. But instead, he let the people down. The drama was all about Black Goose Village, and the noise was becoming way too much. Isaac considered moving his work down to the basement. It is much quieter there, with far fewer people around. He could finally focus on researching his unique and special constitution. Plus, he planned to line the walls with damatrium, a magic-resistant material that could contain his mana explosions. After getting lost in his own head for a while, he called out for Hans, only to remember that Hans is gone. Back in the cave, he wonders why these dark memories are resurfacing now of all times. The belladonna is clearly working. Since he can't force-feed the spiders poison, he is using the next best thing. All he can do is burn the flower and let the smoke paralyze them until they eventually suffocate. But this method is not flawless since he is not safe from the fumes either, so he is using a wet cloth as a filter. Any poison that slips through will be purified by the mana inside his body. He also prepped a compressed fireball, using it as a defensive wall to keep the spiders back. He is juggling 3 types of magic all at the same time: purification, fire magic, and a phase shift on those flames. He is casting all 3 spells at once, using 3 separate mana circuits. And there it is, the power of a multi-circuit. This strategy buys him the perfect window for those spiders to weaken until they are completely paralyzed. Isaac finishes them off with a fireball. He notices the survivors fleeing in one direction, and if we look a little closer, it looks like they are headed for some water. But there is no hope left, they are about to be burned alive. At the same time, he is terrified of suffocating in the smoke. He needs to end this quickly. Isaac sheds his heavy coat before rushing toward the water side. But the moment he arrives, he instantly regrets ditching the coat. The air here is absolutely bone-chilling. The temperature has plummeted so far that ice is literally forming. He looks up and his heart stops. The entire ceiling is blanketed in eggs. Seeing that gruesome sight, a terrifying realization sends a freezing shiver down his spine. He keeps exploring the cave while tossing fireballs to light his path, but things soon take a dark turn. Suddenly, his fears come alive. A colossal beast, the winter spider queen herself. Cold sweat pours down. And as he trembles, the massive monster lunges at him. Isaac barely manages to leap back, dodging those jagged, razor-sharp claws. He hits the frozen ground hard with a muffled groan. But he scrambles up immediately, cursing himself for having such insanely rotten luck. Unlike the others, the queen is fire-resistant and even breathes pure frost. This is exactly why they are called winter spiders. Terror grips his entire body. But Isaac hurls fire anyway. It barely leaves a scratch on her. He expected this. A monster this big was never going to just burn and die. If she were not so slow, he would be a dead man already. But there is one problem. His body is finally reaching its breaking point. In a 12-year-old body with zero combat experience, exhaustion was inevitable. No sleep and constant magic use have completely drained his tank. Isaac realizes no one is coming to save him. It is time to get over his fear. He remembers everything. All those sacrifices the nanny made for him. Wheat does not even grow in this frozen northern region. But she travels to the city every single week just to get him some soft, high-quality bread to eat. Remembering her devotion, Isaac pulls himself together, deciding right then that he is going to ask the nanny for plenty of bread once he finally makes it home. He grips his shovel, drops his pack, and prepares to take on the queen head-on because, even if she is a queen, she is still a bug. He ditches his gear and charges the queen with his shovel. He uses her slow speed against her, driving his shovel right through her massive head. It is not enough. The massive monster drags him underneath her weight. Nonetheless, Isaac refuses to let go, gripping the monster's leg tight. After a quick brainstorm on how to drop this thing, he realizes a standard attack just won't cut it. He conjures a fireball, compressing it again and again until the flames turn a deadly blue. With enough power built up, he blasts that concentrated blue heat straight into the spider's belly. Just as he wanted, that blue flame starts roasting the spider queen from the inside out. The massive spider trembles, life quickly draining from its broken body. Isaac tries to yank his hand free, but the monster's thrashing makes it nearly impossible to escape its death grip. With one last desperate pull, he finally manages to tear his arm away. Isaac hits the ground hard, cracking his head. But that blue flame did its job. It's enough to melt through even the thickest ice. Sometime later, he hears voices, familiar ones, its hands and the nanny talking nearby. They're whispering about his reckless trip into the mine and how he ended up getting himself hurt. That's when it finally hits him. He actually defeated the winter spider queen. The impact from the fall must have knocked him out cold right after the battle. He must have woken up and barely managed to drag himself out of that mine and back to the village. He ran straight into Hans, who was waiting at the entrance, and Isaac just collapsed right into his arms. Now that he's awake, he hears the nanny telling Hans that thanks to his instructions, Hinder is completely cured. Hans can't stop hyping him up, saying Isaac might be a bit blunt after that mana explosion, but his heart is still made of pure gold. Isaac nearly dies of embarrassment hearing them talk about him like that. And he's forced to sit up so they know he's finally wide awake. The two are startled to see him up, and he immediately asks how long he's been out. Hans tells him he's been sleeping for about 12 hours now. She asks if he's all right, and he tells her the pain is actually manageable. The woman absolutely freaks out at that. demanding to know why on earth he went to such a dangerous place all by himself. He calmly lies, claiming he just tripped while looking for some nearby herbs. Isaac knows he can't tell the truth. Who would believe a 12-year-old took down a monster queen? Exactly no one, so a fake excuse is his only option. A simple lie is definitely better than the reality here. He shifts the focus, asking how Hinder is holding up. The nanny confirms those herbs worked wonders, and the boy is feeling much better. In fact, all the kids in the village are doing great now. He's relieved, but he knows he has to keep that mana poisoning a secret or the higher-ups will notice. That would bring scholars flooding in, especially if they find those spider corpses just sitting there in the abandoned mine. The nanny asks how he knows so much about rare herbs. He just shrugs it off, lying that he read it all in a book. Isaac suggests they just drop the subject and tells Hans it's finally time to head out. But Hans hesitates, letting him know it's not safe to travel yet with all this heavy snow outside. Still, Isaac reminds him that Hans will be the one in trouble if they're caught. Leaving the estate under his watch without permission, that's a recipe for disaster. Hans quickly agrees, and just as they are about to set off, the nanny hands Isaac a basket of apples to take along. It turns out the villagers gathered these to show their gratitude. Isaac tells her to take another full week off, though. He wants Hinder fully recovered before she resumes her work. She is stunned, wondering if the head butler will complain about this. Isaac shocks her next. He is not letting her stay idle all week. He wants her to turn those apples into jam so he can enjoy it with bread when she eventually returns. She smiles, agreeing to the task while promising to bake him a delicious apple pie to go along with it. 7 days later, Isaac is out jogging around the estate grounds. Progress was insane. His mana vessel evolved, jumping from 3 circuits straight to 4. Everything is more stable now, letting him cast 4 spells at the exact same time. Fighting those winter spiders. Yeah, that definitely pushed his limits. All that running around the grounds clearly paid off. Think about it. Casting magic requires intense calculation and intuition, meaning it burns through a massive amount of mental energy. If the body fails, the mind follows. It is obvious that high-level magic requires serious physical stamina. He almost hit a wall back in the mine with this young, untrained body. He remembers how Lucas used to train back then. Right mid-workout, Schiller, the head butler, shows up to inform him that it is finally time for his regular scheduled medical checkup. The doctor arrives. He greets Isaac warmly, asking him how he feels today. This is the elite physician assigned by Isaac's own father. Supposedly, he is the top doctor in the entire region. But even this expert can't explain Isaac's strange body. The exam ends, and the doctor claims everything looks perfect. Time for a new prescription. Isaac already knows this guy is talking nonsense. He pulls out 6 bottles of panacea, a rare potion that is meant to stabilize a person's flow of mana. Isaac is actually impressed. His father is really pulling strings to get the premium stuff. In common tongue, panacea means cure-all. Usually, it is a stimulant for elite soldiers. Everyone thinks it stabilizes a person's mana flow. But that's just a bad translation from the ancients. It actually forces mana to surge, pure poison for Isaac's condition. Now here is the kicker. If he uses it right, it will supercharge his circuits. The doctor leaves. Schiller is staring him down, so Isaac asks what is up. All right, so Schiller is actually surprised to see Isaac so calm, since he usually throws fits when people watch him. Because of that behavior, every local doctor has flat out refused to become the young master's personal physician. Isaac jokingly asks if it would have been better for him to just throw another tantrum. Schiller stays quiet for a long moment before finally speaking up. He tells Isaac that Hans let it slip about him, curing pneumonia in Black Goose Village. Isaac realizes right away that the butler must have squeezed the truth out of Hans. Schiller warns him that the advisory committee would make a massive scene if they ever found out. He coldly admits he will let it go this time, but Isaac needs to start holding back. But if he cannot, he needs to keep Schiller in the loop first. Even in his past life, Isaac was never close to this man. He was just a stiff, unbending butler. He was known as a cold professional who always kept everyone at a distance. However, before Jonas died, he mentioned that Schiller actually served the family until his very last breath. Beneath it all, Schiller cares deeply and only puts on a tough act. Isaac just smiles, saying he gets the message. Then Schiller asks if there is a specific reason why he has been running so hard for the past few days. Isaac explains that the greatest mages in history always made sure to train their physical bodies. Since the body is a vessel for mana, it has to stay in top shape. That night, Schiller writes a secret report about Isaac curing those kids in the village. He thinks Isaac's weak body makes magic a difficult path for the future. Instead, Schiller thinks a career as a scholar or alchemist would be the perfect fit for him. He feels that with this, Isaac's father will finally be able to stop worrying so much. Suddenly, a maid named Rosa bursts in with some terrifying news. Maids are disappearing. Clara and Annette have both vanished without a single trace. Rosa tells him she can vouch for Annette being a good girl, even if she is not sure about Clara. Annette hasn't taken a day off in 3 years, so something bad has definitely happened. Later on, we see Rosa talking with another maid and a servant named Bill. Bill starts talking trash about the territory, complaining about how this part of the world has such miserable, harsh weather. Not to mention the bandits and monsters that show up constantly. The other maid asks if he is planning to desert them, and he casually says the chance is not 0. But the girl argues that Annette is nothing like him. She would never just vanish because she needed the money for her father's medicine. Bill cruelly suggests she probably got tired of her sick dad and ran off with some deadbeat guy. Rosa snaps at Bill, telling him to shut his mouth. But Bill just shrugs, saying he is just sharing his own opinion. The two maids tell him they couldn't care less. Bill continues, suggesting that what's happening might actually be the work of dark magic. They ask him why, and he reminds them they literally work for a family of mages. Beyond that, Isaac is in rough shape, convinced his father is grabbing every bit of magic to heal him. He knows his old man is desperate, using forbidden spells just to keep his son breathing. That's when the chilling truth hits Rosa and her colleague. Bill is implying the missing girls were sacrificed alive. Rosa snaps at him, telling him to stop spreading these crazy rumors. She reminds Bill that the master showed him mercy, even with his criminal record. The two are mid-argument when Isaac suddenly appears. He towers over them, noting that Bill has a very interesting story. With a terrifying smile, Isaac urges him to continue. Bill instantly regrets every word he just said. His blood runs cold. He just ran his mouth in front of the one person he shouldn't. Isaac isn't letting this go. He hauls Bill to his office. Bill spills everything. First was Hilda 2 months ago, then Clara vanished just a few weeks after that. Last weekend, even Annette disappeared right after attending Mass. Isaac's gaze turns ice cold. He asks Bill if he has any clue why this happened. Deep down, Bill is shaking. That glare is absolutely soul-crushing. Terrified, he stammers out a lie, claiming he has 0 idea what might have gone wrong. Isaac plays it cool. He promises Bill that honesty won't result in any punishment. Bill needs to hear it again. Is Isaac serious? Isaac simply gives him a firm yes. After a long silence, Isaac asks the big question. Does Bill think he is the reason? Bill stammers but finally admits it. To him, the connection is pretty obvious. He points out that Hans is Isaac's closest aide. Yet the guy is always covered in injuries. Not a day goes by without Hans complaining about some mysterious pain. Bill keeps digging his own grave, betting that Hans will be the one to suffer the most painful death. Suddenly, the room goes dead silent. Isaac's aura shifts. Bill realizes his mistake and starts begging, screaming for his life like a coward. He cries about not having a family yet, but Isaac just asks one thing: do you want to live? Isaac warns him. If Bill wants to stay alive, he's going to have to do some dirty work. Later, Isaac sits alone, his mind drifting back to Rosa and Annette. In his past life, after his nanny and Hans were gone, they were the only ones who stayed. No matter how hard he pushed them away, they simply refused to leave. He told them to stop with the useless potions. They were a waste. But they wouldn't listen. They kept telling him to hold on, that things would get better. Isaac didn't want to hear it. How could he, when he was killing his loved ones? He screams at them. Do they even understand? Annette steps up. She tells him she knows exactly how it feels because she caused her friend's death with her own hands. Isaac is stunned. He demands to know the truth behind her words. It is a dark secret. She believes she could have saved Clara if only she had reached out to her back then. Annette looks him in the eye, understanding the weight he is carrying. She tells him that sometimes people end up doing things they never planned. It is a tragedy that can happen to anyone once. Back then, her simple words were the only thing that comforted him. Now, in this life, Isaac regrets that he never dug deeper into her story. Suddenly, the doors open. Bill has returned. So, Isaac had sent him on a mission to track down the missing maids. Bill's feeling pretty smug, claiming he cracked the case in record time. Apparently, he interviewed some local beggars, and their descriptions of the maids matched perfectly. Isaac asks for the bottom line, and Bill's answer is grim. They were snatched up by slave traders. He explains that these traffickers lure victims with promises of a better life down south before selling them off. Isaac is genuinely confused. Why use a broker? They could have just walked to the south on their own if they wanted. Bill shakes his head, telling the kid he's got it all wrong. The road to the south is a nightmare of danger, so they definitely needed some protection for the long haul. Hearing this, Isaac nods along in agreement. The theory sounds solid, but Bill's actually playing a much deeper game here. He thinks Isaac is just some naive brat with zero clue how the real world works. Bill then starts complaining about the massive bribe he had to pay to get those beggars talking, claiming all 20 silver coins of his travel budget are officially gone. Isaac's stunned. That's enough cash to cover a normal person's wages for half a year. Bill swears everyone was tight-lipped, but Isaac tells him that he honestly doesn't care about the gold. He just wants those maids found as fast as humanly possible. A massive, greedy grin spreads across Bill's face when he hears that. He immediately starts fishing for his next big task from his favorite new client. Isaac agrees, promising that the reward for this next job will be more than worth it. Inside, Bill is absolutely cheering. In his eyes, he's just found the ultimate sucker. He's convinced that if he plays his cards right, this kid is going to be a goldmine. Isaac is a literal golden egg to him, even if the kid is a bit of a ticking time bomb. Still, he isn't sweating it. No big reward comes without taking a little bit of a risk. Smiling, he offers to lead Isaac straight to the broker, but then everything happens in a flash. He blinks, and suddenly he's waking up in a cold cell, wearing nothing but his underwear. He screams in total shock, demanding to know how on earth he ended up behind bars. Little does he know, Isaac is standing right behind him, casually tossing a rune stone in his hand. He's coldly smiling at the man's misfortune. Parts that aren't quite right, so after that, when everything is ready, inserting the right images and syncing the audio together, then we proceed to export the video for publishing. So this is the process that I create a complete video. Therefore, I really hope that the YouTube support team reconsiders their decision. Check if there are any mistakes anywhere to help us return to the program earning money from YouTube. I sincerely thank you.